So the first player that we're going to look at in this year's draft class, and we're going to start with the pitchers, is 6'6", 245-pound, right-handed pitcher and hitter from LSU, Paul Skenes. Now, when you watch Skenes, right, and everybody's talking about him because he just got done putting together what's arguably the best pitching season statistically and what everyone's watched in all of college baseball history. You can liken it to Strasburg, but Strasburg was pitching for San Diego State against different kind of teams and a different kind of era than what you see right now from Skenes pitching in the SEC. Let's take a look and watch him throw real quick. So one of the things that everybody talks about, right, is how effortless it is. It is effortless. And because it's effortless, that's why he's able to sit at 100+ miles an hour for the entirety of the time he's in the game. Everyone in the country on Twitter was freaking out when he, pitched 123, 124, 125. He's like 101, 101, 102. It's because of how he's moving. It's because of how easy and effortless the forward move is as he's carrying down the mound. Right? He's storing energy, and that's helping him get to good positions. He's not just, moving as quick as he can early. He's floating, right? He's moving easy. And watch him when he gets to landing. When you watch him at this point, I want you to pay attention to this real quick, right? He's transitioning right here from the back foot, and his front foot is about to land. Have you seen his hips go yet? Are they open? Are they facing home plate? No. And where are his shoulders? They're square also, right? And that's part of why he's able to throw with the velocity he does as long as he does. When people think about something like hip-shoulder separation, they think that the pelvis is supposed to yank the trunk. The reality is when you jump on a trampoline in the air to throw and reach back, your pelvis opens on its own. You don't have to try, right? And then when you actually go to throw the ball, your pelvis goes the other direction because you don't have to try. When you watch elite arms, right, that can sustainably throw really hard for a long period of time, they stay square for a really long time. And then when that upper body reaches back to throw the punch, the pelvis is naturally going to open during that air time and transition from the back to the front. Okay? Now, when he gets that, scroll back to, yep, right there. So now his front foot's in the ground and it's time to actually deliver the punch, deliver the throw. And because that upper body is back and still square, he's able to create a ton of force through that punch. And that ball is up inside of 90 at a good position, right? And that forearm is going to catch and whip right around that lower body. Now, one of the things we always talk about is how, the end of something tells a story of the things that happened before it. I want you to think about throwing for a second, and I want you to think about it in a way almost like cracking a whip, right? If you crack a whip, right, that end piece, right, not everything is continuing forward. You have to pull back to snap all the energy at the end of the sequence. When you watch somebody finish with like a recoil to their arm, which had a tremendous amount of bad press for a really long time, everybody said it was bad for your shoulder. We did a study on that back in, I think it was 2017 or 2018. And what we found was that not only did it not put more stress on your shoulder or your arm, we saw a 38% overall decrease in stress when guys actually did it or tried to do it. And we also simultaneously saw a 3 to 5 mile an hour average increase in velocity, right? So when you see him do this movement, when you see him crack that whip, right, and the arm goes forward and the leg gets pulled back, that's a sign of a really efficient deceleration sequence, right? His upper body has pinned his leg to the floor, his trunk stops, and then that arm whips forward. And then the arm comes back and the leg goes forward. It's like the last piece of the separation. You transition in airtime and it's like this, then you get across, and then it pulls back at the end. So this is a movement pattern that we see with many of the most elite pitchers that we've ever seen, right? So all of these things are incredibly beautiful and natural movements, right? Now, let's take a look at some video from the fall. One of the things that's been talked about a lot is how in the fall he was sitting 96, touching 99, and then in the spring he's sitting 99, 100, but he kept getting better throughout season, and then touching up to 103. I want you to go ahead and watch this. A lot of similarities, right? But some really important minor differences. Let's get to landing here. So he's sinking a little bit lower here, right? And watch how those hips go to open. And when he's getting ready to throw the ball, you see, get to that next position, Case. Now he's ready to throw. The arm is up. It's time to throw. But see the trunk? The trunk is opened. The hips are further opened. Because of that, he's not able to throw his punch from quite as deep, okay? Let's scroll to the next video. So here's the really cool thing. So Paul, we had talked about this. I've actually been working with Paul since 2017. He was one of the first players that we ever took into our program. We did a whole bunch of evaluations, and we took 30 new kids when we opened up our second shop in Irvine, California. He's from Lake Forest. He lived locally. He came in and did the evaluation, and he was one of the first players that we took. So we've always worked together, stayed in touch, and then over the winter break, he decided to come to Knoxville because he wanted to see if there was anything left in the tank. He wanted to see if there was anything we could do to, continue to help him. And because of that existing relationship, it made sense. And, some people think like, okay, well, he's already at LSU. He's already with Wes Johnson. They already did all this work. There's a lot of pitching coaches that would not have allowed that to happen. Wes Johnson is the best in-game pitching coach arguably on the planet. The guy's seen more pitching data than almost anybody in the game. He's a colleague. He's a friend. He's a really, really brilliant human being that I've learned a ton from over the years. And if he felt comfortable with Paul coming out in between the fall and the spring, I certainly hope that coaches in the baseball community start to become more comfortable with different facilities and people that are doing good quality work, working with players. Because on the other side of fear of something getting screwed up, you have amazing things in faith that can happen. So when we took a look at Paul and the deliveries from the fall, and we didn't have any lab data on him, we just saw the videos and saw that the trunk was kind of leaking open early. What we ended up doing was, walking him through a whole bunch of different drills and exercises that could get him to feel these things and help him recreate them. And then we let him pick and choose the ones that feel the best, look the best, all that good stuff. So let's take a look at this first drill. So these are peelbacks. He's in a wide base and he's slowly countering the trunk. And then on a go command, right, he's rotating and whipping that water and then pulling it back, right? And that action of pulling it back is what sends all of that energy to the tip of the whip. So this is a really good one. And you notice he's working through a flat plane. That's because he throws with an erect spine and a low arm slot, right? If somebody throws with, some more arch in their spine, right, from a higher slot, you'd want to start them in that position so they could rotate well through that plane. Go ahead and flip to the next video. So now he's going through some quick ones, right, and doing them continuously. It's still on a command, but it's rapid, it's reactive, right? So the body can start to work in a reactionary manner, and that reflexive system can start to really, really work. See the stopping power he's putting into that lead leg, into the ground, and into that opposite side oblique? All that stopping power has a lot to do with where that transfer of force comes from. Let's flip to that next video. So now he's doing some shuffles, right, getting athletic. And notice how he's working through that recoil move. And then you notice how he's doing that in game, right? One of the things that the water bags give us the ability to do, which is why we love them so much, they give us the ability to train guys through the same planes of motion and the same movements that they use when they actually throw the ball, but we can eliminate throwing from the entire equation and just focus on how the body's moving. Let's go ahead and flip to the next one. So we just got a couple of these in here to show a little bit of different variation. Flip to the next one. Okay, so now we're putting them on the mound, putting them on the slope, right? And we're working through, getting through what him and Wes like to call the doorway, right? One of the things that was a big focus for them at LSU was getting all of his energy and directing it, right, towards home. So when we're doing these, we're getting him to a good landing position for him against that front side and having him work on rotation and directing all of that energy directly towards home plate. Okay, so if you notice, as he's going through this is a really slow, flowy kind of version, right? We're working on floating and drifting and really holding on to that counter rotation from deep, right? So we can throw that punch from the deeper point. This was one of the ones that he really liked. And after they did these, he went back and they had, tested them and saw that a bunch of the sequencing was improving from these drills that he was doing. And a big part of understanding that anytime you're doing work with a player, it's not about the drill, it's about how it's done and whether it's working or not. I mean, at the end of the day, you could have another player do this same drill and try to execute it the same way, and it's not as good and it's not having the same exact kind of effect. So now we're working with the synapse here, and we're anchored to the wall, and we're working on that forward move, letting his pelvis and his lower half kind of drift forward while he's holding on and countering with that upper body, right? So we can really feel that upper body deep and holding on into that backside. And this is actually similar. There was a video that just came out recently about the work that Aroldis Chapman did because, obviously things had kind of continued to go this way. And now all of a sudden he's back to throwing 104 and blowing people away. And this same exact move is very similar to what he was actually working on with his trainer. Okay, so this was him doing some throwing work after December while he was out. Over at LSU, right? So he's doing some shuffles and step behinds and working on that counter and just that really clean rotation. So now he's walking in from an angle, right? So you notice he's walking in this way. A lot of times when guys play catch and they walk forward, they never get their body sideways and they never get to that really good loaded kind of landing position. They can't get around that backside really well with the upper body. So this was a variation that he liked. That he felt like got him into some good positions and got him feeling good. And then you see him at the end, which means it was a good pitch. So one of the things people comment on with Paul is his incredible athleticism as such a large guy. Like I said, we've been blessed with the opportunity to work with him, and he was at our shop like 5 days a week, pretty much all through high school. He's probably the hardest worker I've ever met. And one of the most important things about what we were doing with him we knew that he had grown rapidly and was continuing to grow. And after we put that weight on him his freshman year, he put on 57 pounds with us. After that, a big focus was just tremendous proprioceptive training for his brain and getting his brain to control his body in space and getting him to be a really good athletic mover. And when he threw from behind the plate, it was gorgeous and incredible, right? So what do you think we put into his throwing program his junior year of high school when he wanted to pitch? Well, we did a lot of catcher throws, right? Because he did that really, really well, and we wanted those to transfer to the mound. Right? We also did a ton of athletic throws. Go ahead and flip to that next one. So this was a running throw. We have guys run forward and then throw through it, okay? Notice how his hips are working that other direction through that throw. Not trying to do that. It's just happening from really good movement and good athleticism. I want you to really pay attention to the arm right here. Right? Let's flip that back, roll it one more time. Okay? When he lands, or as he's making the throw, watch that arm and how it just unravels, gets behind the upper part of that arm, and whips out and around, okay? So for people that are concerned about pitchers and injuries, here's the deal with arm injuries. We had a lab for 7 years that we got to work in, and we got to test and see a lot of different things. And, Dr. Faree, our biomechanist from Movement First, the lab we had partnered with, at every conference we've been to, has told everyone that all of the players that she saw test and come into our program initially tested with higher stress levels and lower velocities. And after training, when they came back, their velocities had gone up and their stress levels had gone down, because this is what we were trying to get their arms to do, to move naturally and release around the same plane of rotation of their trunk. So if you're a big league team and you're looking at this and you're thinking about a guy like this, that there should not be any kind of injury concern that people generally have, right? He moves clean, his body moves clean, the force is effortless, and he knows how his arm moves. Here's the interesting thing. So not only Paul came up to me and said he wanted to start pitching or working on it his junior year of high school. And, before that, he had been a hitter and a catcher primary. He pitched on occasion, but it was really the hitting and the catching that was the focus. And this is a big league bat, Like, make no mistake, this is a big league bat. He can hit 35 jacks, 40 jacks in the big leagues and hit for a good enough average around, at a 275 and maybe even one day a 300 clip for him to be a two-way guy and be the Shohei Paultani that we always kind of knew and envisioned him to be. Let's take a look at the hitting real quick. This kid knows his body and he knows his moves. Now, one of the things we always talk about is bracing and stabilization. Right? These are the moves that you see from the best hitters, the best prospects, and the best guys in the world. You see how quickly his body stops and turns into a rock, right? There's an example that we always use that I'm going to use later in a different video. But when you watch the Brock Wilken video, you'll hear it. And when you go back and watch this video, it'll remind you exactly of what I was talking about. So let's stop it at the landing position here. So when you watch the landing position, right? That upper body, scroll forward one more. That heel isn't in the ground. Go ahead, one more. Okay, so when you watch that landing position in BP, like he's against his front side, his upper body is back, right? Now let's scroll forward a little bit here. Okay, so now he's in a lag position to a pitch down in the zone. His hands have gotten past his pelvis in a really, really fast, short period of time and space, right? His pelvis didn't yank early, it held on. His hands are getting past it because his upper body is driving the move, right? It's not his hips that are yanking it. Think about it like this. If you got on a cable machine and you put a whole bunch of weight and the job was to hold it here and rotate it with your upper body, and your first move was to yank this way, it's not going to feel too good on your L5-S1 and you're not going to be able to produce a whole bunch of force, right? If you did it and just tried to move the weight, as soon as your legs and pelvis get anchored and stable, now you can move that weight. And that's exactly what he's doing. The three things that we really look for in elite hitters are if they have space and room, right, for their barrel and upper body to work through that three-dimensional zone, if they're against the front hip and have great direction through the middle of the field, and if they can compress the cork of the ball and transfer a whole bunch of force, like a Bruce Lee one-inch punch, in a really small window of time and space. And he can do all of those things. Right? So this kid can and will hit in the big leagues if he's given an opportunity to continue to develop this skill. This was just a single leg, front leg drill. See that upper body sticking that ball and holding on against that front side? Okay, let's go ahead and go to the next one. So this was in 2018, right? Look how easy that swing is, right? That was in 2018. He was like a sophomore in high school at that time. Right? He led LSU in home runs in the fall. The only reason he did not hit this year, imagine you go to a school and you transfer there to be a two-way prospect, right? And you have the draft coming up, and there's a potential for you to be a top 5 overall pick. Right? And then all of a sudden, the plan kind of with the increased velocities and the workload, the team decides that it just makes more sense since they have the best offense in the country already. It just makes more sense for you to focus on winning us games at Friday night. I've talked with Paul the entire time during this process, and when I initially asked him how he felt about what was going on, there's a lot of answers players can give. There's no better answer than what Paul gave. Paul said, listen, my job right now is to help my team win. What they need me to do is pitch on Friday nights and help win us games. I have a huge increase in workload. I mean, I led the team in home runs in the fall. I don't even need to hit in the spring right now. What I need to do is focus on what they need me for. The selflessness of that is incredible. And that's just the kind of human being ultimately that this kid is. And that goes into why I think he belongs as the #1 pick in this year's draft. Let's go to this next one. This is back in, this is probably 2018, right? And it's Skenes and his, best buddy, Ethan Flanagan, who's a pitcher, left-handed pitcher at UCLA. And, Skenes, they're writing their own practice plans already. At 108, our job is not to tell everybody what to do all the time. It's to teach players and empower them. So as they continue to move on, they can continue to collect information and refine their process and learn how to make choices and take ownership of it on their own. I've never seen anyone do it as good as Paul's done it. Like I haven't. I mean, that's why the kid's a 4.7 GPA, goes to Air Force as a freshman, team captain as an 18-year-old, hits 418, double-digit pumps. He does it on and off the field. He's not just a generational talent with an 80 grade fastball. He's an 80 grade human being with an 80 grade makeup that's always going to be in the right places, doing the right things, outworking everyone, because that's just who he is. He helps build culture everywhere he goes, and he wins everywhere he goes because he demands excellence of himself and everyone else around him, right? And he holds himself accountable. This is a generational kid that I feel incredibly blessed that he's, come through the program, and I've been able to work with him and get to know him. But I don't know if I'll ever see anything like this again. So it's been incredible to watch. Sunday is going to be incredible to watch. I can't wait to, my family and I actually fly out tomorrow to go to the draft party at his house. And Paul, you have an incredible career ahead of you. I love you. I'm proud of you. Couldn't be more proud of you. You're an example to every kid that's ever been through 108, every kid in this country that wants to continue to not only play baseball but do anything. Right? Everything that you do, you do it the right way. And going forward, you're going to have an opportunity to impact, everyone in and around this game just because of who you are and, how you actually go about your business. It's been incredible to watch. It's been an honor, and again, feel blessed to be a part of it. Paul, you're literally the embodiment of the 108 way. And you really are America's ace, man. And can't wait to see how this thing continues.